This is Skeptic Sage. A Mr. Philos 71, whose videos are probably the most astonishing on the internet, has a video called The Top Atheistic Fallacy That Plagues YouTube. Three things I notice about his videos in general, and this one in particular, is number one, that he tries to take on physics, social science to some extent, and he simply doesn't know enough about science and physics in order to really do so. You also do something routinely, which is to make unwarranted assumptions without acknowledging that you're making an assumption at all. And you act as if what has just occurred is somehow leading to some obvious conclusion. And you use gestures and language and enunciations as if using language and enunciations and flashy things on the screen makes an argument. And another thing is that you end with these damn Bible verses without ever doing any of the preliminary work to show that the Bible has any substance whatsoever to make it a reliable source. First, you start with the very interesting statement that atheists believe that there is no evidence for God, and that the only reason we really believe that is because we've brainwashed ourselves by repeating it to ourselves. But you give no evidence for this assertion that this is exactly what we do. When in fact, if you read any book written by any atheist, they will show you that the reason they don't believe in any evidence for God is that, number one, no one has supplied it. Number two, supposed evidence that has been supplied by theists is frequently fallacious. You claim that atheists make this argument. You say God is not observable, therefore God does not exist. This is a straw man that you theists create all the time. Scientists and atheists do not require that God be observable. They only require that God have the attributes that anything that exists must have to be said to exist, which is that it be observable or that its effect be observable. We can't see, for instance, black holes, but we know they exist because we can see things orbiting them. The problem is that we've got no place to point to look at a God and see things, metaphorically speaking, orbiting it. This is the thing. We're talking about something which is supposed to be everywhere, involved in everything, has created everything, but leaves evidence nowhere. How does something touch, create, make to be everything without leaving any footprints? Either footprints that we can see in the past or that we can see presently. That lack of evidence is what makes people atheists, not some kind of brainwashing. You then talk about an impossible dance. Here we go with this vagueness. This impossible, an almost impossible dance. How did the laws of nuclear physics come by to make this happen? This is like saying, why are circles round? If you see an apple fall from a tree and it squishes a bug, you don't say, how did that apple just happen to fall right at the right time to squish this bug? There must be some entity that wanted that bug to die. No, we come to the conclusion that apples fall all the time, and that bugs walk around under trees all the time, and that somewhere along the line, a person walking by, an apple and a bug are going to happen. Because there are so many bugs and so many apples and so many people that at least once somewhere an apple is going to fall and squish a bug. It's called coincidence. Then you say that laws precede the universe. This is impossible. A law is an abstraction. It's a creation of human beings. It's a linguistic and mathematical description of reality. It is a map. So you have map and you have a terrain. So laws are abstractions of how the universe works. They exist only in our heads. The universe is not separate from the laws. The universe is the laws in motion, and our laws are simply our way of describing that motion. You then make the argument that the terrain could not exist without a preceding map. In effect, you're saying the universe couldn't exist without a preceding laws. Why? Think about it for a second. If human beings had never existed and there had never been a map, would that keep terrain from existing? First you have terrain, then you have the evolution in that terrain of life, intelligent life, i.e. us. Then this life makes maps. You then say that quote-unquote, the only solution science can offer. No, that's not the only solution that science can offer, that there had to be some pre-existing laws created by a pre-existing entity. That's a Christian apologist idea that you're now projecting into the heads of scientists. They give multiple solutions to this and multiple theories, but your theory doesn't happen to be one of them. You then said that scientists vastly agree that the universe had a beginning. Well, again, you make these statements without looking them up. The thing that's really interesting is you then make the assumption, again, an assumption that theists have been making that has been debunked repeatedly. You state that the universe had a beginning, we know that, and something had to make that beginning happen. Why? What evidence is there? But that's no reason to claim that there's a pre-existing thing that caused it. Number one, let's say there was a pre-existing thing. Why would this pre-existing thing need to be an entity or need to be a consciousness? Why do you make that assumption? Why couldn't it be a non-entity? Why couldn't it be just a physical force of some sort? Secondly, you then make the assumption that if it is a consciousness, that it's some kind of God. Well, if there is a consciousness out there that started the universe, what if it's a limited sort of consciousness? What if it doesn't have any of the attributes that we would think of as a God? Now, let's say we assume that there is a beginning to the universe, assumption. Let's say the universe has to be caused by something outside, eternal, and non-substantive, which is bizarre, because how can something exist without existing? How could something that doesn't exist physically create existing things? That would be like me saying, well, I'm a ghost and I'm not here, but I'm going to touch this and make it move. That doesn't even make any sense. But nevertheless, let's say that all of those things were true. And we do have, and let's say we say it's even a God. Well, what evidence do we have that this God has any of the attributes that are in the Bible or the Quran or the Tanakh about, or any book? What if this God has nothing to do with any of those gods? What if all of our gods are make-believe and there happens to be a real God and he's different than the one that we imagine?